So we all know that Counter-Strike 2 has some amazing maps, but what actually makes them good? Is it the layout of the map? The graphics? Or maybe just history of where the map came from? That is what I will be talking about in this video, because I think that it is an interesting subject to talk about. Especially now, in 2025, where we will hopefully get more maps than in 2024. Before the video starts, I just want to remind you to leave a like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe to the channel for more Counter-Strike content. Now, a year after the release of Counter-Strike 2, all the maps has gotten some changes in one way or another. Some has just gotten tiny changes to geometry, while other has gotten a new layout. Now, let's have a look at all the maps that is inside of the game today. Here are all the maps that is inside of the game as of the day I am recording this. The maps that I will be focusing on today are all the Defusal maps, and that includes Dust 2, Inferno, Mirage, Nuke, Ancient, Anubis, Vertigo, Overpass, and Train. Now, if we have a look at one of the most classic maps in all of Counter-Strike, Dust 2. Everyone that has played Counter-Strike know about this map, or has at least heard it be mentioned inside of the game. If we start by looking at the map layout, we can see that we have 3 lanes that goes through the map. We have long A, middle, and T-spawn to be tunnels into B site. This layout is one of more simpler designs, but it works so good, and it is easy to understand for all players. Even though Dust 2 can be seen as a simple map, it has some pretty dynamic changes in its geometry. For example, the staircase from upper B tunnels into lower tunnels. This change in level gives the map more angles and it makes the map feel more advanced. And this goes for all maps inside of Counter-Strike. Every map has some kind of change in level. No map in the game only has one static height throughout the design, and the same goes for the lighting. Especially inside of Counter-Strike 2 compared to Global Offensive. The lighting is more advanced, and it gives the map a whole new feeling and makes some parts of the map feel more true to where it is located. Now let's go to the second most famous map in Counter-Strike, Mirage. Mirage is the home for all players, but especially the tryhards and the Russians. If we look at the map, we see that it has the same type of layout as Dust 2. As it's a 3-lane map, we have T-spawn to ramp into a site, middle and B apartments into B site. But even if the layout is the same as Dust, Mirage has some big differences. For starters, the design and landmarks are very different. Although you could say that Mirage and Dust has the same textures, the differences is more important. Mirage has more open parts of the map, for example. In mid we see almost all gunfights in the start, and it dictates how the round will go. From mid, you have so many options to where you want to go, and the layout of the map supports it. I think this makes Mirage a very good and simple map to learn. But it can also be the most complicated. Because it is so open, you need to learn a lot of different smokes to block off certain angles. That's why Mirage is one of the most played maps in all of Counter-Strike. Now, let's move on to the third map in the list, which is Nuke. Nuke is a special map in its layout. Let's have a look right away on how the map is looking. As you can see, we have 2 maps, and it's because Nuke has 2 levels, one upper and one lower. On the upper level, we have A site, and on the lower level we have B site. This layout is very different from Dust and Mirage, and some players dislikes this. I think that change is good, and makes the game more dynamic and more fun to play. The only big problem that Nuke has is the bomb explosion radius is so large, that you need to stand on the edge of the map to not get hit by it. But despite that minimal flaw, the map is a classic, and has been inside of the game since the beta of Counter-Strike. And the layout has mostly stayed the same. The first thing that comes to mind when I think of Nuke is how important the yard control is for both teams. The layout gives Ts so many options if they decide to go outside and take control. They can go down secret to B site or a main, to a site, or even heaven. All these different options make the map so diverse in its gameplay, and can make the map hard to learn. But when you have mastered it, you can be unstoppable. Now, let's move on to the next map, Train. Train is the newest map inside of Counter-Strike 2, and compared to Global Offensives, Train this new version has got some changes. Let's start by looking at the layout and the map. Just like Nuke, it does not have the same layout as Mirage and Dust. The special thing about Train is that both sites has a defined entry for Ts to go through. Of course, you can change this up by using smokes and flashes, but it can be hard for Ts to take over a site without them. The map itself is well crafted, but as it's the newest map, it will go through some changes before it is fully complete. But if we look at the current state of Train, I think it is very good. It is not perfect by any means, and I feel like they should change the sites a bit. I love the new rain effect that Valve has developed and added to the map. I think this adds a lot to the map and gives it more character. The layout is different from all the maps, and as I said when talking about Nuke, I think this is a great thing. Every time a new map is added to the game, players will struggle and have opinions about the map. Some think the map is amazing, and some think it sucks. As I said before, I think Train is good, but still needs some changes to be the best version of itself. Now let's move on to the last map that I will talk about in this video. Inferno. Inferno has always been a classic map inside of Counter-Strike, and this new version still has the same layout as the OG, but with some really stunning visuals. Now let's look at the layout of the map. As you can see, we are going back to the 3-lane layout. Inferno has 3 main paths that you can take. We have banana to B, middle to a short or long, and second middle to apartments. This makes Inferno, just like Mirage and Dust, very easy to learn, but hard to master. You need to know a lot of smokes and flashes to use the map at its fullest potential. The layout gives the players a lot of options, but it can be restricted because of how narrow Inferno can be compared to other maps. There aren't really any open spaces, and the whole map can feel a bit claustrophobic compared to Nuke, for example. But I feels like the visual makes up for the somewhat boring design. It really feels like you are inside of Italy where the map is located. Now, if you are a competitive player, you don't really care for the visuals of a map, and more about the layout. And Inferno is so simple, so it's hard to get lost. That makes it a good map for new players to get a hang of the game. But for veteran players, it can become a boring corridor of a map. That's why I prefer almost every other map in replace of Inferno. But like everything in life, people think and like different things from each other. And that's why it can be hard to make maps inside of Counter-Strike. I want to shout out all of the map creators out there and tell them that they should keep up with making maps and to improve in their map making skills. Because without maps, Counter-Strike would not be what it is today.